Welcome horror fans, cinephiles, and giallo enthusiasts. I am your host, Tanner Leeser, here for The King in Giallo, and it's that time for another giallo film guide for Halloween. I will be spotlighting 5 more giallo films that I think would be good choices for a Halloween viewing. Last year, I rustled up 5 great picks if you were looking for something leaning deeper into being explicitly horror-toned and which primarily functioned as slasher films. This year, I decided to spotlight some gialli that I would classify as great whodunnits. Now, before I begin, I will address that with only 5 picks, there are going to be dozens of films I'm leaving off of this year's list. That doesn't mean these ones are the best, but these ones do come to mind for me, and I tried to avoid selections which could just have easily been chosen for a Slasher Part 2 list or a psychological thriller list. These choices might have shades of being slashers or psychological thrillers, but not as much as other options I had considered. As always, I invite you to share with me your list of 5 Halloween giallo films you would recommend, be they unthemed selections or keeping with the theme I'm using for this year's picks. Whodunnits. Okay, in no particular order, here are 5 good old-fashioned giallo film whodunnits to watch for Halloween. Number 1, The Girl Who Knew Too Much, 1963 by Mario Bava. This is the first giallo film, in my opinion, and the first one by Mario Bava, who is the grandfather of the genre. The film is in black and white because, at that time, horror films were usually shot in such a way. While I would adore to see this in color, Bava makes masterful use of the lighting and the shadows. This proto-giallo lacks the classic killer aesthetic, which would come next year with Bava's Blood and Black Lace, but here we have some great performances by the main cast, good comedic elements, a thrilling investigation, a damn fine satisfying reveal at the end, and a brilliant over-the-top trap sequence with a nice payoff. This one should be seen by all true fans of both the genre and of Bava. Number 2, Perversion Story, or One on Top of the Other, 1969 by Lucio Fulci. This giallo I have mentioned a few times as possibly possessing the greatest script of any giallo film, certainly for the 1960s. This thriller is very well thought out and executed by the godfather of gore, although this film is very tame in the violence department. The more casual approach the film takes serves to highlight the storytelling and character development all the more, in my opinion. This giallo also contains some great acting, some of the best characters, a great usage of the Le Diabolique trope, a sinister reveal and nail-biting climax, and a steamy scene which I cannot believe they actually put on the posters for this film. This film proves that the poet of the macabre was hitting 1,000 before the Italian splatter films we all know and love him for. Number 3, The Cat o' Nine Tails, 1971 by Dario Argento. I mean, I had to get the big 3 out of the way. Now, this film, which is the second in Argento's Animal trilogy, could fall under the slasher subgenre of giallo films, but I think the execution of this film, particularly the influence from the German co-financiers trying to desperately pivot this movie into being a German krimi film clone, allows it to sidestep the slasher modifier and be more investigative focused. This giallo lives somewhere in the middle, never behaving too much like one subgenre over the others. It is plenty Hitchcockian, krimi, detective thriller, hell, noir. The kills are superbly slasher, and the film is undeniably giallo. It contains one of the greatest acting performances in the genre, one of the best Ennio Morricone soundtracks, and has some of Argento's wildest ideas put on display. The ending is a nice surprise with a fantastic death, but it could be said that the film ends a tad quickly. Regardless, this is a young genius Argento at work. Number 4, Who Saw Her Die, 1972 by Aldo Lado. Speaking of killer Ennio Morricone soundtracks, this is perhaps my favorite giallo soundtrack through and through. Every song is mesmerizing. This film bears a lot of striking similarities to another film, one which I do consider to be a giallo, a British giallo, but many will say that it is not, which is Don't Look Now by Nicholas Roeg. Who Saw Her Die is a tad slashery and has a fair amount of the giallo killer aesthetic, but replaces the foreboding masculine frame with that of a sinister feminine shape, hearkening to the old crone imagery which was indicative in witch lore. Great performances, great script, great kills, great ending, amazing music, and a superbly tense scene in which we are placed in the killer's POV as they stalk towards a defenseless little girl. Aldo Lado only made a few giallo films, but each one is so unique and also a knockout. Worth checking out. Number 5. The House with the Laughing Windows, 1976 by Pupi Avati. This is one of my favorite underappreciated giallo films. This one is a slow burn, but with an insane reveal and final climax. The music is haunting, the writing is methodical, the imagery is both beautiful and disturbing. The ending is as maddening as it is set up to be, and I mean that in the best way. This one might be hard to track down and probably is a bit slow for many, but I think it represents one of the greatest whodunits in giallo. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this little Halloween video. I invite you to leave your own selections down in the comments. This month I have been pretty overwhelmed. I did plan on having much more content out, but life happened. I took a vacation, and I have simply been very, very tired. I will try my best to have one final October video out on Halloween, one which has not a single thing to do with giallo cinema at all. But if I miss the cutoff, I will have it out before the end of the year. Also, stay tuned for those of you who were waiting for a Maxine video. Unfortunately, this was one of the videos which I was unable to begin, but I will have it out before the end of the year. And just a heads up, in the next 2 months, I plan on finishing the giallo films of 1971, giving you a 1971 recap, and filling the final weeks with some fun videos. For example, my Friday the 13th video, which I was unable to get out due to YouTube's copyrights with Paramount, hopefully I will be able to have some version of it out, but it will probably be a terribly edited down version from what it was originally supposed to be. I also might do some comparison videos, we will see. This is a warning now, though, that 2025, I will be slowing down, perhaps switching to a seasoned format of releasing things, so to speak. I have been meaning to establish other YouTube channels, but this year I worked so hard as to have at least one video up every single week, which was just a lot to endure, and I am getting slightly fatigued. If you support what I do, though, I am on Patreon, and this is the best way to support me directly, as YouTube and AdSense love to not work with me. I have been monetized this whole past year on YouTube, but haven't received any money for it. So, yeah, Patreon is where it's at. I have dropped all my higher price tiers on Patreon. And regardless if you sign up or not, I greatly appreciate all my viewers, all those of you who leave a comment, and all those who subscribe to my channel. Thank you all so very much for this wild journey, and a special thanks to my current Patreon subscribers. This is Tanner Leeser for The King in Giallo, and if nothing else, I'll see you next time.
Let me show you something.
My God, what's happened to him? Why is he wrapped in these bandages?
I don't know. Weird. Really weird.